Hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world or whenever you are in the world. I'm Darcy Eikenberg. I am the founder at redcaperevolution.com, where we help professionals just like you be able to bring your superpowers to work every day, making your lives, your companies, your colleagues, making your lives better for the good of our businesses and you know what? Also our world. So I'm so glad you're here today for another one of our LinkedIn Lives. Now, if we haven't met before, let me tell you a little bit about what we've been doing here. So every month, I've been sharing answers to questions that come in through our community at redcaperevolution.com. I've got some juicy questions here today to share. And we're being able to share with you some thoughts on how to approach the questions, how to think about them for yourself, and quite honestly, all the different ways that we can tackle some of the stickiest challenges that we're facing in our lives at work. You know, the truth is, in the work that I do as an executive coach and the work that I do in teams and companies around the world, one thing we know for sure is that if it was simple, we would already have figured it out. A lot of these questions, a lot of these situations, they aren't simple. Seth Godin today, the author, blogger, had a great post in his daily message that he sends out that was talking about the difference between solutions between problems and situations. It's like problems have solutions, but sometimes situations don't always have a specific solution. And I find more and more that a lot of the experiences that we're having in our workplaces, experiences with managing hybrid teams, experiencing with managing different problems and issues that come up, sometimes it is the situation that's the challenge. And so one of the things that I've always taught is recognizing where you have control. And the truth is, you only control three things: what you do, what you say, and what you think. And that's it. And it always has been, and it always will be. It's a universal truth. So if you find yourself into a sticky situation, you find yourself in something that just doesn't seem to have a neat packaged up solution that I can Google and find out here's the answer to this question. Maybe then it's time to think about working with a thought partner, a coach like me, like many of my awesome colleagues in the world. Maybe it's time to invest in your own critical thinking and ways that you can be of help in these situations that come up for you and not be in a place where you're feeling stuck or you're feeling out of control. Because the one thing that we know we need from you is to be able to take those steps, to change what you're doing or stop doing something that's not working, to change what you're saying or to stop saying something that's not working for you, or to change how you're thinking and be able to align your thinking in ways that help you, your company, and your colleagues. So I'm so glad you're here today. Let's dive right into questions. If you're out there and you have a question, looks like I can see in for some the comments. Please feel free to pop a comment in, say hi. But here are let's go through questions that came in advance. And if in the future you'd like to ask a question, you can always ask it here on LinkedIn. You can ask it live, or you can always make sure that you're part of our insider community at redcaperevolution.com. In our insider community, that's where every week I share ideas, I share stories, and insights that I don't share often on social media. So our insider community is the way to get the best access to be able to ask those questions, to get answered, and to get other tools and ideas that might help you in your life at work. So let's dive in. Here is the first question that came in. So I'm going to read the more detail. So here's the question. Dear Coach Darcy, I took a new job in my field 3 months ago, and I keep waiting to feel like I have it under control, but I'm still waiting. How long is too long before someone should feel confident in their job? Can I say never? Yeah, this is a really interesting question, and I appreciate the person that sent it. How long is too long before you should be feeling comfortable in your job? You should be feeling confident, feeling like you have it under control. Control is an aspect we all want. We just talked about that a little bit. We all want more control. As a matter of fact, I tend to think that most of the tension that we have at work, the tension we have even with ourselves, is about a longing for control, a longing to feel certainty. This is that the brain is always craving, right? The brain craves certainty because certainty is safe. Certainty feels like I'm not going to make a mistake. I'm not going to get hurt, damaged by this. It really goes back to our biology. This is what the brain is always trying to do. The brain is always trying to find certainty. It's constantly scanning the environment for threats. So when we have these feelings of we're not feeling confident in our job, we've got to recognize that what does confident need to look like for us? Our jobs can consistently be changing. Maybe you'll never feel confident because there's always going to be an element of uncertainty. When we're looking for everything to be perfect all the time, looking for everything to be right all the time, we actually miss out on a lot of opportunities, on a lot of the creativity, and also a lot of the collaboration involving others to figure things out. I think our desire to feel confident in our jobs is admirable. And I think it's almost impossible in many roles. So instead of confident, I might challenge you to think about what really matters to you. Is it actually that you feel like you're learning and you're growing? What does that feeling look like? Or if confidence means something else to you, like it means other people ask you for your opinion, or it means that I'm operating with less stress and less fear. Those are choices you can make right now. You can decide that, hey, if I want other people to be asking my opinion or I want to be more involved in the decisions at this level, what can you ask for to be involved? How can you have a different conversation with somebody to invite them to use you as a resource for the thing they're working on? If the feeling of confidence is really meaning that I want to feel less stressed, maybe you can make that choice right now. What are the things you're stressing about that actually may not actually matter to the situation at hand? We have more control in deciding who we're going to be, how we're going to show up than we think we do. And so this craving to feel confident, especially in something we've never done before, is almost unfair to ourselves. Think about it this way. What if it was someone you really cared about and they just started a job? What was the situation with the writer 3 months ago? 3 months. If someone said to you, oh my gosh, you are screwing up. You've been there for 3 months already. And, you don't feel like you know everything in the job already. Come on. We would never say that to a friend. If someone said that to us, like, "Oh, man, I'm messing up. I've been there for 3 months, and I just don't feel like I have it all." What would we say? We would say, "Are you kidding me? 3 months is a blip of time. It takes that long to just understand where all the pieces of a job are." There's not an expectation that you automatically know everything instantly. We have to give ourselves some space and some grace on learning a new job, of understanding not just what's on the surface, but all of the context and the things that are underneath the surface. This is actually why when people are hiring and they use the term, "I want somebody who can hit the ground running," I always caution them. I always say, nobody can hit the ground running because it's new ground. Even if they're an internal transfer, the work they're doing, the expectations, chances are the people they're doing work with are very different. In most jobs in our knowledge economy, there's not a script. There's not, here are the 5 things that this job does. If that was the case, it would be a commodity. And we actually, those jobs we know we can outsource, we can offshore to the lowest cost bidder. But the thought jobs, the knowledge jobs, the people leadership work that most of you are doing, the jobs that entail us having to decipher and pull apart and really figure out what is the work that needs to happen. This is where it's all new ground. So it's unfair to say, well, I have to hit the ground running. It's unfair for somebody to expect that just because they hired somebody from a similar field, that coming into your company, they can get to those same level of results instantly. So I think we all have to give ourselves more space and grace on what it's going to take to feel confident in our jobs and really even recognize, is confidence even a fair expectation? Think about, so for the whoever asked the question, think about, what do I really mean when I want confidence? Do I actually just want to feel like I'm under control? If so, let me look hard at the things I already control now, or things that I have more control over than I'm giving myself credit for. What are the things where it's okay that I'm uncomfortable right now? One of the things I always say to my clients is discomfort is where the growth comes from. So, where might it be okay right now to be uncomfortable and to learn to live with that, to learn to let that be okay, to be able to quiet that lizard brain in our head that says, oh, this isn't comfortable. Something must be wrong. Emergency, emergency. We do that all the time, right? You have the power to make a different choice. You have the power in your new role to be able to say, what do I expect of me? And how do I communicate that expectation to others? How do I not let not feeling totally confident yet not pull me down? So I hope that's helpful for the person asking the question. Great question. And also one last thought on that, to remember, we sometimes wait to take action until we feel confident. But the truth is that it's action that builds our confidence, not the other way around. So if you're somebody who's waiting to do something, to say something, to change your point of view until you feel confident, I might challenge you to flip that on its head. Take the action that you know you need to take now, and the confidence will follow. Okay, thank you for that question. If you are here and you want to leave a comment, a question, feel free to do that in the chat. Hopefully, I can be able to see all that. But in the meantime, we have other questions that have come up. So let me go and find the next question. Okay, so there is the next question that was submitted at redcaperevolution.com in advance. And so here's what they sent us. Darcy, about 2 years ago, I left the company I was with since college, but I never found a great fit elsewhere. So I decided to go back and take a new position there. I'm excited, but worried too, since some of the players are still the same people, but I'm different. What do I need to think about as I get a fresh start? I love this point that this person made. Some of the players are still the same people, but I'm different. What do I need to think about as I get a fresh start? So first of all, congratulations, boomerang. Yes, if you haven't heard that term, that's what we call folks who might go back to an employer where they had worked before. And the pattern of boomeranging has been around for a long time, but in recent years, I know seeing through the lens of a lot of the companies and clients that I work with, we're having even more boomerangs than ever. And some of this is that during the COVID crisis, during the so-called Great Resignation, a lot of people left thinking that grass was greener somewhere else and went somewhere else and found that the same problems existed, found that the same things that they were trying to run away from were actually still an issue at where they had gone to. And in making that discovery, and I've talked to several people who have become coaching clients who are making these transitions, recognizing that the things that needed to change in me first. Things like setting boundaries around my work and my work life. Things like being more vocal about asking for what I need in terms of promotions, support, opportunity, how people treat me. All of that, again, can be in somebody's control. So for somebody who's boomeranging back, I mean, there is that concern to say, hey, I am different, but I'm going back to the same people. So, a couple of thoughts about that. First of all, are you clear about how you're different? In other words, who do you want to be now? How do you want to show up? Getting clear not about what you're going to do, but who do I want to be in this situation can be so powerful to help guide you and to help you recognize where it might be tempting to fall into old habits, to fall into old routines, old ruts in the road, if you will. Being clear about who you are now helps you be able to calibrate your actions, your words, everything as you show up in the old space that's new once again for you. I think also in recognizing, in this letter, you said, I'm different, but it's the same people. Maybe they're different too. I mean, after all, time has gone by. We evolve, we change. Just because someone has stayed in the same role doesn't mean they're thinking the same things, they're wanting the same things, they're even doing the same things. This is the fascinating part about our world of work is that our work continues to shift and change. I'll often say to folks, our work is all made up. So just because somebody's in a same job, maybe has the same goals or the results they're accountable for, doesn't mean they work the same. Doesn't mean their work is the same. So I might challenge you as you go in as a boomerang coming back after a couple years of being somewhere else to not only be cognizant of how you're different, but the fact that other people have had their life experience, have had things happen. They may be different too. It's not just you that's had the opportunity to change. So, in doing that, in getting clear about ourselves, which is what we can control, and getting curious about others, which all we can control in that is my next recommendation, which is to plan to do what I think of as intentional networking. I call it intentional networking because it is really focused on the other person, on how are we really understanding who that person is, what they're doing, and being intentional about reaching out to them and learning about them, asking about them. It's not the traditional networking where it's like, oh, I want to tell you all about me because I want you to do things for me. No, this is really the basics of building relationships. If you're going back to a company that you had worked at before, just to get very tactical, I'd make a list of 5 to 10 people that you will be interacting with, that have interdependencies for your job, for your role, people that you know that you might need to hit reset on. You might need to connect differently with than you might have been the you who was 2 years ago you might have chosen to do. So when you make that list of 5 to 10 people, then you start to set up conversations. If you're co-located, you're physically co-located, that's awesome. Invite them to lunch, cup of coffee, take a walk around campus, whatever the things are that you can have a conversation. If you're not co-located, Zoom, even good old-fashioned phone calls. But the invitation is, as I'm coming back, I know things have shifted and changed. I would love to catch back up with you and hear about what's going on with you. Could we schedule coffee next Tuesday or Thursday? But remember, it's all about them, not about you. Now, if they're decent human beings, which I am sure many of them are, else why would you boomerang back there? They're going to ask about you. They're going to want to know about why you made the decision to come back or things you're thinking about now. But make the invitation about them and really make your focus intentional about connecting, reconnecting with them. Check yourself for assumptions, for old tapes, for anything that might get in your way of building a relationship with them through a new lens. Because yes, you are different, and so are they, and so might be the work. One of the amazing things about the world of business, the world of work, is that things are constantly changing. Sometimes on the surface, it looks the same. Here's how we process an order. Here's how we serve our customer. But underneath, there's been so much radical change that's happened just even in the past few years. Are we actually recognizing that? Are we actually taking advantage of that? And are we actually inviting people into a more intentional conversation to think about how things could be better, how we could work more smoothly together, how you coming back with a fresher eye could be of support to them. So I would challenge you, and I'm reminded of a executive coaching client of mine who was boomeranging back to an organization. And she was very concerned about a couple of people who she didn't think who were in her corner, even to rehire her. And when we talked about putting together the intentional networking list, those people weren't on the list. And so I pushed her. I nudged her. It's one of the things a good professional coach will do for you. And I said, this is your time to hit reset. This is your time to change the direction of that relationship. And if there were things in the past that didn't work or that you butt heads, this is a chance to ask for what you need, to ask for a different relationship. And the courage, but the intentional decision to do that can be so freeing because it also allows the other person the invitation to think differently, the invitation to look at their own brain and maybe give some more benefit of the doubt, to flip their mindset. So don't avoid people who maybe you don't really like, but you need to work with, or people who weren't supportive in the past. Remember, they might have changed too. And it's going to be up to you to ask for what you need, to hit that reset button on the relationship, and to create the new relationship going forward in a way that's going to work to support who you want to be in this new job, even if it's in an old company. I hope that's useful. It is a situation that we're seeing a lot. Maybe you have had somebody who's returned to your organization. Maybe you are somebody who is thinking about it, or you're going through a recruiting situation, or maybe you haven't been able to hire the person that you really want. You haven't found them out there and you're like, oh, if they were just like Matt. And then it's like, maybe we should reach back out to Matt. Let's stop making assumptions. Boomeranging can be great to be able to create new opportunities, but it doesn't have to be just because they've been here before. Maybe they're the right person for now. Okay, so that's 2 questions. Again, thank you for watching so far. Let's go to what the next question is that was submitted in advance. So, it's somewhat similar. Okay, so here's what was sent in. Hey, Darcy, I always hear your network is your net worth. You've probably heard that too, right? But if I'm not looking for a job, why should I network? I know the people I need to. What am I missing? Why do I need a network? I'm not going anywhere. I'm not looking for a new job. Networking feels icky. Everybody's busy. Who would want to talk to me? All of this mental drama goes on in our brains, right? Even if we want to know more people or be connected in a deeper way with the people that we know, we pull back. We're like, that's not for me. Or really the excuse that I hear most often is, I don't want to bother anybody. Well, I want to flip that frame for this person. And I appreciate somebody asking this question, because this is the kind of question that often people will get stuck on, because it seems that you could get it answered by the Googleplex, right? Why do I need networking? And a whole list of bullets come out that are, it's build your network before you need it, and opportunity to share your message with others. And it's all right, but it doesn't influence us to change our behavior. It doesn't convince us if we are stuck in our mind drama that says, I know the people I need to know. Why would I take an extra step to network? Why would I put myself out there? Why would I risk wasting somebody's time? Why would I risk embarrassing myself because I don't know what I'm networking about? So here's a new thought that I want to offer you. I want to offer you the thought that networking doesn't have to be about you. Networking is about others. Networking is about finding the ways that you can help others. Often, even if there is something we want, let's say it's a job, or maybe it's a promotion internally, or a number of other things, we hesitate networking because our mental model is we don't want to bother people, or we don't want them to, what if they don't like us? What if they don't think we're worth the things we're talking about? Even if your brain hasn't gone there, if you have any of those fears, pay attention to those and actually peel them apart a little bit. It's like, what am I really afraid of? Are we afraid that they're not going to return my email? No, we're afraid that not returning my email means that they don't like me and they're talking about me and are going to get me fired and I'm going to lose all my benefits and end up living in a box under the bridge. Don't laugh. This is where our minds go, right? Hello, you're human. Play that game for yourself on anything that feels simple, but you're stuck on. There's a bigger fear that's underneath there. But the best way I found in this topic to flip that fear is to take yourself out of the equation and think about it for somebody else. You have gifts. You have ways you can contribute. You have ideas, and there are plenty of problems in our world to solve. But if you're sitting there by yourself and you're not talking to anybody else about the things you have done, the things you can do, you're not asking questions to learn what the problems are, you're not asking questions to understand where somebody else might be struggling or achieving and soaring, then how can you help anybody else if you don't know what might be needed? So flipping the frame from being about you to being about somebody else, I think can be incredibly motivating to get you moving forward in doing more networking. And if the word networking freaks you out, call it building relationships, call it being helpful. Networking is a goofy word. I don't want to be caught in someone's net. I'm not a tuna. But do I want relationships? Do I want connection? Absolutely. These things are inherent in our human condition. Do I want a sense of belonging? Do I want to be able to contribute, to be helpful if I can? But we can't seek those things out unless we're talking to people. And that is just what networking is. So when you flip your frame to thinking about networking is finding how I can help others, as opposed to how others can help me. Even if you are in a job search or looking for a promotion, the frame of, hey, I have some skills that I'm willing to put to work for a particular problem, but I'd love to hear from you the problems that you're wrestling with. What's happening for you? And when you let somebody share what's happening for them, then if there is a way you can help, if there is an idea you have for them, then you can contribute it. It's like, if this is helpful, this is something that I do. If it'd be useful, I've had that experience. I'm happy to tell you the story about what we did over here. People are always welcoming help, but people like you, think about yourself, right? We are reluctant to ask for it. There's actually a scientific term, and it's escaping my mind right now, but where we assume others see what we need, but we don't. Other people can't read our mind. And too much of our time and our energy in our workplaces is spent trying to read the tea leaves as to what people need. Why not just ask? The tea leaves can be a starting point. Hey, I saw a post you did on LinkedIn that talked about the challenges in recruiting science-based talent for this role. I have some experience with that. Is there something I can help you with? Or I'm curious to learn more. I have some science-based talent. Maybe I could be of help, but could you tell me more? We stop ourselves from being helpful because we think it's not about them. We think it's about us. But when we help others, we end up being able to help ourselves. So if you have a block about networking, remember that you can make it about other people, about what they need. You know, the mantra I use a lot, and I wrote about this in my book, Red Cape Rescue, is somebody out there needs me. Somebody out there needs me. I don't know. I can't put my hands on exactly who that is. But my job is to be reaching out, to be visible, to be helpful, and be listening for the places where I am needed, the places I can serve, the places I can contribute that match up with also what I want to do and the things that I care about, and the things that I know I can bring my superpowers to the world. The listening, but then taking the action to network, to reach out, to build those relationships is something that not everybody can do. But if you're asking the question, if you are thinking about like trying to talk yourself out of the need for networking, I'm going to implore you. That's a sign that you need to be stepping up and stepping out and building those relationships now more than ever. Somebody out there needs you, so don't hold back. Okay. Thank you for whoever asked that question. Maybe that's a little different answer than you typically hear. Again, the word networking drives people crazy, but make it about somebody else, not about you, and it makes it a whole lot easier. If you like, there are some other tools on my website at redcaperevolution.com. If you message me or put a comment in here, we have some scripts to be able to start to reach out to people in email that frame it about somebody else, not just about you. And there are also other ways and tools that we have articles and videos on that talk about networking and making sure that it comes from a place that is externally focused and not feeling like you're putting your hand out and asking people for some kind of special favor. Networking can be fun. And remember, all work is done through people. Even work that AI is doing and that bots are doing, it all starts with people. So don't cut out the opportunity for other people to know you, to know what you contribute, and to know how awesome you are at what you do. Okay. All right. So we have one last question that is coming up here. And here it is. Oh, this is a juicy one. So here's the question. Hey, Darcy, I lead a team of about 50 who work all over the world. There's so much chaos going on right now in the world. And there's also confusion in our company as our CEO gets ready to retire. I'm trying hard to be a good leader, and I want to be encouraging and positive. But I also don't want to be fake. and promise everyone roses when we could be in for a few thorns. Great phrase. Other leaders are just deciding to stay quiet, but that doesn't feel right. Help. This is a tricky time when we're a leader, and especially when we're a leader that believes in consistent and open communication, which hint, if you're a good leader or aspire to be a good leader, consistent and open communication is always going to be your friend. But what do we do when there are lots of true hard things in the world, or maybe even just in our company? How do we approach it? I actually wrote about this sometime last year in the Harvard Business Review. I believe the article is called How to Speak Confidently to Your Team When Everything Else is in Chaos. You could probably Google my name and HBR and it will come up. But this topic has been magnified for leaders in recent years, right? A leader doesn't want to be with everything that's so down and heavy and be pessimistic that people are going to say, I'm jumping this ship. Or knowing that our brains crave certainty, but being unable to offer people certainty. You know, I had a client where the business data was clear that there was a certain business unit that wasn't achieving the results that they needed. And in many ways, people at the line level recognized the writing on the wall that it could be potentially soon that division would be laid off, would be closed. But the leader that I was working with really struggled with that, because until they decided that it was over, they didn't want people to give up. You know, it's like saying, we've got the marathon and I'm going to stop at the 20th mile. I'm going to give up before the last few miles. So how do we balance this? And how do we balance this with being in integrity of our own beliefs? How do we balance having a communication style that still is honest and fair and not putting, what's the phrase, lipstick on a pig? You know, not trying to spin it or fake it till you make it. That makes no sense to me. How do you balance it? So there's 3 ways, and I talk about this in the Harvard Business Review article that I mentioned, that when you're a leader that wants to continue to inspire and motivate and help their team keep moving forward, even amid things that are uncertain, changes in the world, changes in your organization, there's 3 things that I recommend you think about. One is eliminate the choice of staying silent. Often I will hear leadership teams deciding intentionally to not speak on a topic that they know is bubbling up because they don't know what to say. But this is how we are as humans, right? The absence of saying anything makes us write our own story. What's the phrase? The nature abhors a vacuum. When I'm not hearing anything about this thing that I see and smell and sense, I make up my own story. And I might make up a story and share that with somebody else. Or I might make up a story based on what's happened in the past. Oh, they've gone radio silent on that. That means that division's going away. We've seen it before. So silence is not your friend. When there's an issue to be able to be tackled, just acknowledging that issue hey, I know we all saw the results that, XYZ division missed their annual numbers. And then what's actually happening? As a leadership team, we're working on what happens next. And what's the commitment? Making sure that there's a commitment to say, as soon as we know what's next, if there are decisions to be made, we'll let you know as soon as they happen. As you can understand, these things take time. We want to process this through with respect and with looking at all the issues. You don't always need to say a lot. But one of the things that one of my coaches had advised me on when I was struggling as a leader is start with the truth. You're wrestling with a message. You're wrestling with, how do I talk about this? It would be easier to not talk about it at all, but to recognize people need to hear something. When you're thinking about it for yourself, how do you just start with, what's the truth? What would I say if there were no consequences, if nobody cared? Because once you can be clear for yourself on that, then it allows you to build an honest message, but that also can balance the more positive message that you want to send about the situation, or the neutral message, the truth about the situation. Don't stay silent. So in doing that message, there's also a strategy to remember you can teach from the past. If you have especially is helpful if you have a lot of long-term employees. This can be very useful, because what you can do is find times in the past that maybe echo what's happening now. You can then, maybe you want the outcome to be different, but to recognize and give people some context that we've managed through these big changes before. Because a lot of times, and with all the turnover that's happened in recent years, you will probably have people who don't have an institutional memory of how you've managed through change, how you've managed through pain and errors and all the things that just happen in our businesses. But to be able to honestly acknowledge what's happening now, and then to be able to take that step back and say, we've been here before. We've figured it out. We keep learning lessons. And we're going to figure it out this time too. There's an element of confidence that comes from knowing that we've lived through our worst days in many ways. But memories can be short. We can forget that. So you as a leader, if you have those stories, those stories, or gather those stories, it can be really powerful to incorporate the past and the learnings from the past into the present day situation. The other thing that you can do is to remember the magic of the word "and." In improvisation actors are often taught that the next step, the next line you're coming up with is always an "and." It's never a "but." It's never shifting. It's always building on what the person before them has done. And in many ways, this is how life works. This is how our work works. We can have a really tough time, can have our offices that are under scrutiny, or our cities that have protests going on, or things that are disruptive or confusing. And we can have good work that's moving forward, people that are helping, people that are contributing, people that care. There's interesting visual that I've shared with clients sometimes of where if you had a clear glass of water and that's your entire company, your entire situation, what can happen is if we have one thing happen, and that's a drop of dark ink, and we drop just one little drop of ink into the clear glass of water, what happens? It can quickly color the whole glass. Even though by volume, that ink was tiny, tiny, tiny compared to the volume of what was a clear glass of water. So recognizing when we use and, we're recognizing that both the dark and the light can be true. Both the problems that we're experiencing as well as the good things that are happening can be true. And I've been working with a lot of leaders lately through some major transitions in their companies. And it is often really hard to find the light. It's often hard to see what the good stuff is. It's one of the reasons I'll start a lot of my private coaching calls with my clients with, tell me what's good going on. Tell me what the wins are. Because our brain wants to go toward the dark, toward the negative, toward all the problems we need to fix, all the situations that aren't working in our favor. So we have to be more strategic, more intentional about finding finding the light with that dark, and reminding people of those things, not taking our wins for granted, not taking our accomplishments for granted. Being able to say, as we go through this CEO transition, and even though it's uncertain as to who exactly will be where, we are still serving thousands of customers every day and making a difference in their lives. Maybe your story isn't as dramatic as that, but sometimes we need to put those things in context. Sometimes we need to remind people of all of the way that things are going well. And not just in a Pollyanna of, oh, you're doing a good job, but to get specific, get granular. It's this division is struggling and we're still achieving our goals on these other areas, and we're so proud of the work that the team is doing to figure out the turnaround. The art of using and can help you stay in integrity with being honest about what's not working, but also to be motivational, to be inspiring, and to just, again, be honest that there's good things that are going on in the organization too. In many ways, one of my coaches always says that life is 50-50. We forget during hard times that there is half of things that are usually going well in some way. Find those things in addition to all the things that are going wrong. So, coming up on the top of our time, I want to just thank you for being here and watching, no matter when you're watching, where you're watching this Ask Me Anything. We'll continue to do these throughout the year. Gives me a chance to hear the questions that you're asking. It gives me a chance to think more about how, if we were sitting here face to face, that we would share answers with you and help you move forward in your life at work. For now, I hope that if you're not part of our insider community, come over to redcaperevolution.com. If you go /insider, you can join right there. It's free. I'm told it's fun. Every week, there's a little story and strategy that comes into your inbox to help motivate you, guide you, and to give you something that you can share with others to be able to really make a difference in their life at work. For now, I will say goodbye. Happy end of April. Welcome to May, and have a great rest of the week and the month. See you again soon. Bye for now.